Welcome to Grief,
Silver Linings,
and Other Shit with Courtney
and Lynn.
We're going to take a different kind of look at grief and trauma and ways to cope.
Ding, ding, ding.
We hope you enjoy. Thank you. So we're going to start today's episode. We have our very first guest. We're very excited. And we're going to let Mike kind of introduce himself and talk about why he wanted to come on our podcast.
Well, as I was started to tell you when I got here, and you told me to save it for the podcast, was, I really think it's amazing what you guys did in putting your story out there. It's powerful to put out a firsthand message of trauma and how you're dealing with it. Not just moments after it happened, but years later, and the journey you went through to get there. There was a lot of things that I could relate to with the trauma you discussed. But it was, it said to me, you know what, I've talked to her for years. My wife, Jessica, who's off camera and won't be on camera.
Who is also Lynn's cousin. So
yeah,
let's add
Lynn's
that
cousin.
in. We're all basically family.
Yeah, I mean, but I've been talking to her for years about doing something like this. So when I listened to it, I was like, if they want to explore different avenues of how other trauma has affected people, I'd be more than willing to come on and talk about it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Perfect.
I want to just add that Jessica thanked me because some people like in our lives haven't heard my story come from my mouth, or like what my actual day that day was like, and so a lot of people have thanked me for that portion of it. But I, like the rest of you guys listening to me, I haven't heard what Mike is going to tell us. So I'm kind of excited because I can have fresh questions. I can have a fresh take on it where it's probably something that Lynn's more familiar with. Mm-hmm. So when he offered to come on, I got really, really pumped.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you got. I hope I don't let you down.
No, there's no letting us down. There's no letting us down.
I hope my trauma isn't not enough for you. I'm not gonna lie, yours is a lot worse than mine, in my opinion. But I haven't lived your life, and you haven't lived.
But there's
mine,
so many levels to different bullshit out there that
there sure is.
So. Okay.
So you just want me to go run with it?
Yeah, because I try not to talk too much.
Okay. Where do I begin? I guess I'll start with that. For those just listening on Spotify and not watching the video, I'm not what you would call a soy boy little guy, right?
No.
Okay, I'm a pretty big guy. I'm
Alpha.
6 foot, 250. I'm a leader in my business industry. I'm pretty aggressive and I can be pretty intimidating at times, but I'm a victim of sexual assault. I was assaulted when I was 4 to 6 years old by by the babysitter who was male, who was our neighbor and was in high school when I was young at that age. And it was something that you don't really process until you get a little bit older, maybe like 10, 11, things start to change for you then, and you start to realize what happened to you as a child. And with that comes a lot of, what's the word? It's, this is why I wrote shit down.
He took notes.
Yeah, right. But what comes with it is shame. You feel very shameful. You feel like it's your fault. You feel like, because a person would say, oh, you're going to get in trouble if you tell anybody. So you always felt like you did something wrong. Right. You felt like if I did say something, I would get in trouble. And then time passes and you're like, well, time passed so long, why even bring it up now? And I never dealt with my issues. I had a lot of rage. I had a lot of anger. I bottled it all up. And I didn't tell anybody. And like I said, I was 4 to 6 years old. and I met my gorgeous better half when I was 16 years old. And she was the first person, and I could just tell when I met her that I was going to be with her for the rest of my life, just from her energy. And I was never a big energy person, but she's got an amazing energy that I was drawn to. And from the moment I met her, there was nobody else for me. So when we got to know each other after like a week, she was the first person I like ever told about what happened to me. And it was I'm not here to tell other people's stories, but it wasn't just me. I had an older sister too, but you know, that's her story. That's not mine. And you know, it was difficult because I remembered everything, and come to find out years later, you know, she didn't recall any of it. So it was her system dealt with it differently than mine.
Wow. I
So
didn't know that.
yeah, but again, not my story to tell. But so I talked to Jessica when I was 16, told her what happened. She's like, "You gotta tell your parents. You gotta tell your parents." I was like, "No, not an option." So went on with my life. Didn't know how to process really tough situations in the aspect of dealing with loss, grief, things of that nature. Usually resorted to anger, drugs, alcohol. Tried to basically bury and just cauterize that wound with anything I could. You know, we went through some tough times in our relationship, and I overdosed when I was 20 and almost died. That was an experience. Looking back on that, I'm glad to have made it through. And still was able to convince the psychologist that came to visit me in the hospital and my parents that it was an accident. I didn't mean to take 65 pills, right? It was an accident, right?
Can you believe that?
I never got any help. Never, nothing. So I guess they just took my word for it. But so that was a really rough spot, and I put Jessica in a position where she not only had to be my better half, she had to be my mother, and I apologize to her all the time for putting her through that. But I still didn't get help. I was 20 years old, so 15, 16 years after everything went down, and went on with my life. I got married, had kids, still dealt with a lot of anger, a lot of acting out, a lot of, things that come with somebody who's been, and I don't want to generalize things. Everybody's different in the experiences they have. Over-sexualization. I had a lot of anger. I had internal mental struggles. I never felt good enough. I had the inability to handle difficult situations in life. Shame, like I said, you grow up, you don't know what happened. Am I gay? Will I be labeled as an abuser if I come out and I say, hey, this happened to me? Oh, well, he's probably going to abuse kids, right? I mean, so that's one of the stigmas too, that, I feel like talking to people and telling them, hey, I'm a victim. It's not that creepy guy around the corner all the time. It happens to people.
I think the inability to talk about it is what leads somebody to becoming a predator themselves.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Well, not just the inability to talk about, because I was unable to really talk about it for 25 years.
No, but like having people shove it down. Like you didn't tell people and they made you shameful, and they didn't make it add on because you kept it to yourself. I don't know.
And the part that really kept me quiet and put a muzzle on any attempt I ever wanted to make at talking to, my parents or anybody that was close to me about it, is that the perpetrator was basically in your face. He was not only a neighbor, he worked for the family business. Everybody thought he was the greatest guy in the world and would say how much they loved him.
Well, they
So
usually
that
have that kind
that
of
in that aspect really was damaging. Nobody knew they were damaging me, but it was like a punching bag to my brain every time I had to hear that kind of stuff. So when I was about 29 years old, my marriage was to the point where Jessica was ready to just say, hey, you get help or I'm out of here. And so I got help under duress. And thank you for that. It was best thing I ever did was go to therapy. And, people put a stigma on therapy. Like, there's something wrong with you if you go to therapy. Honestly, after going there, and I haven't probably been to therapy in 4 or 5 years, but I think people that don't go to therapy or will refuse to go to therapy have an inability to better themselves, because it is. I used to be that person, and I had an inability to better myself in that aspect, and I ended up in a better place than I ever thought I would have been. I went to solo therapy. We went to couples therapy, and it took a lot of years, but I really think that it not only saved my marriage, but it helped me grow as a person. It gave me a different perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing with therapy. It's all about perspective. There was no medicines. There was no drugs. I didn't do any of the EMDR or Reiki or anything that you guys talk about. It was just talking, and it was built up pressure that had to come out, and so that was one of the biggest things that changed my outlook. After going to a lot of therapy, I was able to get to the point, and it still came out in a very angry way, to tell my parents what happened. And it wasn't planned; it just happened, and it was pretty aggressive how it came out. It was in an anger and a fighting, or we were yelling, and I was yelling. I was probably yelling; he wasn't yelling, but I used to yell a lot. It takes a lot to get me angry now, but so that came out.
Can I tell you why it takes a lot to get you angry? Because you've had a real problem.
Yeah, it's
people who
It's true.
people who have had real problems don't get upset over the little stuff.
No,
it's like, that's not gonna ruin my day.
I used to be the guy that would have the road rage. The guy would cut me off.
Yep.
I used to be the guy that would get angry over trigger, just hair trigger.
Yeah.
I think I still hold the record for the longest sawhorse throw in our shop from getting angry. I was pent up, angry, and everybody just thought I was just this fucking lunatic sometimes, and I lost a lot of credibility by expressing myself that way. But through therapy and learning to deal with my issues and not just bury them, and
gaining some coping skills.
Yeah, coping skills and just understanding certain things. And I go back to perspective. Perspective is huge. I mean, when that light bulb goes on and the therapist says something and it just clicks, it's like, wow, I never thought of that. What the fuck? Mm-hmm. So therapy was huge. Talked to the parents. How
did they respond?
Not well. They were shocked. They said, we would have thought you said you would tell us you had cancer before what you just told us. Like they couldn't believe what I told them. They did not believe me.
Could they not believe you held it in that long? Because I would have a hard time, you know what I mean? Being like,
I think so. I think they were probably shocked in the aspect that they didn't pick up on anything.
Like, as a parent, wouldn't you be like,
wait,
what?
There was a couple times throughout my life that I remember I tried to get it out. I just didn't know how.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of fear and shame associated with it. So when I was able to remove the fear, the shame, and all that, still came out in anger. But
when you realize that no 4 to 6 year old could do anything to deserve it.
Exactly. Like, hey, wait, that wasn't my fault, was it?
When you see what a 4 to 6 year old child does, you're like,
well, when you have kids of your own, you get a different perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, the parent perspective.
Yeah.
But they reacted and very shocked, and it took a couple months, but my mom actually wrote a certified letter to the perpetrator, who was, I think at the time, about 40 years old, and after he received it 2 days later, he blew his head off in a field over at like 24 and Hayes. So I felt great after that when I got that phone call. I was just like, wow, I feel amazing. This is great. Because it was like, there's never, I would always, when I was younger, be afraid that I'd run into him. And I don't know what would happen in my older life, like if I did run into him.
Was your rage?
Right.
Right, I don't know.
Anger
You know,
that
so
was
I felt free in the aspect of, well, here's the way I looked at it, is I carried a weight for 25 years. And I grew strong from carrying that weight. It made me a strong person. Even though I didn't carry it well, I carried a lot of weight. And when I was able to offload that weight and make him carry it, he couldn't carry it.
Yeah.
And it crushed him.
Yeah.
So,
do you think you're his only victim?
no.
Well, I mean,
no, I
besides
don't think
what
so.
you said.
I don't know a whole lot about his personal life or what his personal life was, but I do know that he was a stepfather to 2 children. So I don't know. You know, I have no bearing on that. I have nothing. I know that I wasn't the only victim.
Right. You know that, but
you know, but how many? I don't know. Well, enough to make him feel that way.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So, no great loss.
No.
So beyond that, I felt free. I was 30 years old, and I was coming up on my 31st birthday, and I felt great. I felt amazing. It was the best I've ever felt in my life. I said to Jessica, I said, you know what I always wanted to do? I always wanted to see if I could fight. I didn't have anger anymore. It was just, I wanted to see if I could do it. So I joined MMA at 30 years old and started training MMA, and I met some of the best people in the world, and you got all your aggressions out, and it was just great people. Somebody could break your nose and then give you a hug, and I mean, it was just
too bad you didn't find that as a teenager.
Right. Well, I didn't know how. I probably would have been an angry fighter, but it was just really fun. I had fun.
Yeah.
And then we were at entering the best point in our lives. You know, financially we were doing okay. We had a great home, 2 boys. I'm feeling good. Everything's going great. And then, you know what? We found out that that my oldest son was molested by somebody a few doors down. That was also a family member's child. He was in high school at the time when we found out, and Antonio was 7. But you know, when that happened, it was like, it took me back, like when we found that out, and it was a shock, obviously, and I didn't think I mean, I'm not going to go into 100% detail about how everything went down, but I didn't think I was going to come home that night. Turns out I was able to get the person to confess that he did it. And we separated ourselves from that, from the home that we loved. We went through litigation, court. That was an experience in and of itself. You find out how much of a business the court system is rather than to help people, from what we found. That was really tough. He ended up with 6 months probation because he was still a minor at the time. And actually since then, Michigan has loosened their laws on sexual predators to where even if they're over 18, I think it is now, right?
20.
Yeah, 20 years old, like, you can still be considered a minor, which is insane. You think it would go the other way.
Well, if it came to a violence and fighting, then it's a different story. It's the opposite. They'll try a 16-year-old
in high school, or
an adult, right?
You know, so it's kind of a weird game they're playing. I'm not really sure.
And in California, they're lowering the age of consent.
Right. It
so they're lowering the age of consent and raising the age of...
Yeah. It's nothing. We're living in bizarro world, but I think 2 things. I mean, you know, going back to what I originally said is that, you know, the more people that know that this stuff happens a lot. People, like you said in your podcast, you know, you tell people a story and they look at you like you're growing an arm out of your head. You know, I mean, it's like, what? Like, but I tell my story to people in conversations, and people that don't normally talk your head off just shut up.
Mm-hmm.
And like they do not know what to say, and people that normally would want to have a lot of conversation with you want to end the conversation immediately
and run.
Yeah, they don't want to talk about it.
Do you know why that is? Because they don't deal with their own shit. Why would they want to deal with yours?
Well, not just that. is you know,
it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about.
They don't want to deal. People don't want to deal with talking about their traumas.
Exactly. Well, you know, it's like I almost like talking to other people about their traumas because I like to feel like, hey, I'm not the only fucked up person.
Everybody's got one,
right?
Yeah.
Everybody has one.
So, back to my son. You know, that was an extremely traumatic experience for Jessica and I.
Does he know how brave he is?
Oh yeah, no. He's here. One of the things I found, I truly believe that everything that happened to me in my life was to prepare me to be able to deal with what happened with my son, because
he's going to be better off for your experience.
He's going to be amazing.
And that shows what great parent you are to make him feel safe enough to tell you guys.
But I also feel on the flip side that him being young enough and telling young enough where you didn't also alerts people that something's going on with that perpetrator.
Yeah.
So that person could potentially get help. Like, by not that I'm blaming you, but by you keeping your mouth shut, like that guy, nobody's like, that guy's kind of a perp. Like,
sure.
Or maybe there's trouble there. You know what I mean? Like,
problem is that even with that knowledge, you know, you put it out there, everybody wants to push it under the rug. Nobody wants to get that guy help. It was just, oops, whatever. They don't want to deal with it. He's fine. The state determined that he's a low-risk repeat offender after their therapy sessions with him. Well, that's great. He's a low-risk repeat offender. I'm glad to hear that. That makes it all better.
Don't want him in my neighborhood.
Yeah, right. Hey, do you want him living next door to you, watching your kids? I don't think so.
Right.
So it's great. He's low-risk repeat offender.
Well, there needs to be reform in the mental health.
Yeah.
You know, just care and what's available, and it's just...
The problem is that nobody wants to have their child labeled as somebody who's a perpetrator. Right. You know? Right. And so when you're dealing with people that are in their teenage years that hurt little kids, little young children, not kids in middle school, not kids in high school, little kids, babies.
Yeah, babies.
4 to 6 years, 4 or 5 years old.
I just can't even wrap my mind around.
I can't either because
like my stomach hurts.
And you know, and you hear people talk, and I've actually stopped people because there's situations where people are shooting the shit, everybody's drinking, and somebody will make a joke like, "Oh, that guy, yeah, well, he must have been molested when he was a kid." And I've actually stopped people and actually told them my story to their face, just
Good for you. You should
because
know.
I say, you know what, I used to just kind of...
Who the fuck says that?
People do all the time. People do all... I think it's a general consensus.
I don't hang out with ignorant people.
It's easy to assume that the damaged person is the one that's going to end up damaging more people. But in reality, it takes a damaged person to begin with to even think of doing something like that.
Right.
Like just mentally damaged. It's a sick person. There's people out there. There's you know, NAMBLA, the National Man-Boy Love Association, but that's a real thing. You know?
But I think that, some people don't have a shot mentally, if they are put in a situation where they're abused as a kid. There's something that's already kind of broken, at least for my situation. People have gone through similar situations to what my murderer perpetrator went through, abused as a child, by the parents, whatever.
Right.
And they come out okay and are successful.
Sure.
And then there's some people that go through that and turn out to murder their families. So some people can be molested as a child and go through that and turn out to be an outstanding human. And some people go through that and end up a perv. There's something broken in the brain. And until we, open up that conversation about what is going on in the brain as well.
Yeah.
It's all leads back to mental health.
Sure.
Nurturing our kids' mental health.
Well, then it goes back to the fact that there can't be a stigma around getting help.
No, normalizing it.
You know, and I don't think medicine is the issue.
No.
Maybe in some cases it is, but I just don't. I'm not a big medicine person, and I don't know if it's because I overdosed on pills when I was 20, but I don't even like taking an aspirin.
No, it masks it. It doesn't. It doesn't make it go away.
If I'm going to feel pain, I'm going to feel pain, and it's going to eventually go away. So, yeah, I mean, Antonio's a great kid. I couldn't be more proud of him. I think he's strong, smart, and he's a great kid.
So I'm assuming that you got him the treatment that you had wanted as a child. Like, you treated him the way you would have wanted it received.
At first, we didn't know
what to do.
We didn't know what to do,
which is normal. That's normal
because there's nobody wants to talk about it, and there's
no protocol.
There's one place you can go in Mount Clemens called the Care House. They're usually backed up months out, so you're not gonna get any kind of help right away.
Right.
So after we went through everything and we found out how difficult it was, we went to therapists and other therapists and other therapists, and he went to Sylvan Learning Center to catch up in school, and he went, all these other places, and it's like, after all that, and going through the court process, and going to an expungement hearing, which, by the way, also from your original podcast where you said that about the victim advocate statement that you were able to read in court, so powerful.
Oh.
Was that not the best thing you could ever do?
Well, and I stored it up.
Oh, yeah.
I was, it was going on, what? I don't even know.
It was
11 months or something like that.
Almost a year.
Yeah.
So I was just ready to blurt it all out by the time I got there. You know what I mean? It just flows right out of you.
Oh, I know. What was it, a year you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, ours was, we found out in June, and I think it was September, October, something like that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to speak then, and then a year later, maybe a year and a half, something like that.
No, it was like 2 or 3, because we moved.
We were moved the next year.
Yeah, I know.
We were moved in 6 months.
Wasn't he going to school, and that's why, like, away to school?
He was graduate. Oh yeah, he was going to college, but
and that's why.
He tried to get his record expunged. We had moved, and they were sending all the letters to our old house, and then finally the attorney called me. And he's like, hey, and I was working, I'm like, hey, what's up? He's like, yeah, so we've been trying to get a hold of you if you want to come have a victim advocate statement at the expungement hearing. I'm like, when is it? They're like, 2 days.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. Why don't you get, well, we've been sending letters to your old house. Oh, that's a problem. So we went and did that, and that was the most powerful thing ever, because they were, how lawyers are with judges. They all have their kind of like, after work engagements, and they all kind of know each other, and they kind of know the deal, and everybody knows how these little things are going to go, and and everything was going that way during the expungement hearing, and about how great of a kid he is and how amazing he's doing and this and that. Well, I got up there, and Jessica stood right there with me, and you held a photo of Antonio. Yeah, and I read the speech of my life. And
I was there. It was wonderful.
And I read it in a way that the judge, I got done, and the judge, it was Switalski was his name. Mark Switalski. He took off his glasses, and he was just like, whoa. And he kind of did one of these, And he goes, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. If you weren't here,
we would have expunged him.
He goes, but listening to your words and the pain that was caused, he goes, I just feel it's too soon from the time of the action to
your son should at least be an adult.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He should should at least be over 18 and not underage.
And it's because somebody doesn't want to label. Right. I'm sorry. You know what? Carry that weight. That's your fault.
Do better.
You did that.
Do better.
Yeah, do better.
Advocate for it.
Something.
Speak up.
Don't just try and get out of the issue because mommy and daddy threw some money at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't care what fucking lawyer you have. I don't care how much money you have. You need to pay for your shit. Period.
Yeah.
People need accountability in this world. And
for sure.
That's what's missing. So, the victim shouldn't feel any shame. And, things that I want to stand for is, talk about this, because, there's somebody out there that's going to listen to this or see this, and they're going to say, hey, how does he talk about it? How does he make it look so easy? Trust me, it's not easy. It's fucking hard. It's it's easy now. I don't care. You could talk to me at the grocery store about it. It doesn't matter. Because I don't let it own me. I have control. So yeah, I mean that's.
You can't let it run your life.
No, it's my story, and I want to set the best example I can for my son. I don't, and I tell him I used to be a very angry person. I never dealt with my issues, and I want him to know my history because I don't want him to repeat it.
Raising emotionally healthy children is my number one priority.
Absolutely.
I don't care what grade you get and how you score, and like I really want you to be a good person, and like also see that people have trauma and that that's what's wrong with them.
Empathy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely have a lot of empathy in our house. Mm-hmm. For sure.
And we talked to him about this.
Sure, we talked to him about everything. Oh, we talked to him about this. Yeah, I asked him. I asked his permission before I came on here to even tell my perspective of his story, and he's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem."
He said, "As long as it helps somebody."
As long as it helps somebody,
yeah.
So
it's pretty amazing for a kid to
think
like that.
Yeah. It was.
But it doesn't define him.
No.
It already doesn't define him, and that's because of the outstanding job you guys have done. Where it defines.
We're not perfect. We've made a lot of mistakes,
right.
But we try to tell the kids the mistakes. So. Do
you feel like it defined much of your young life?
I.
In retrospect, maybe.
I buried it.
Yeah.
I buried it. Nobody would ever know.
But that portion of your anger, like, kind of defined your personality too.
I distracted myself with things that didn't matter because I couldn't deal with the things that mattered.
Okay.
So, I was really big into sports, and watching sports and playing sports and everything sports. And I don't think I've watched, other than, like, I think I watched the Super Bowl this last year. I don't think I've really watched a full game of anything in, like, 6 years. I just don't care. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't even matter to me. I mean, yeah, it's fun and cool, but everything was
Somebody was like, here's some tickets, you'd go.
Maybe not. You're going to end up spending more money on the beer than you would the tickets.
You might take your lady on a
date. Maybe, I'll take her out. I don't care. We'll probably spend the time at the bar instead of watching the game. But, see, that's right? Maybe we go to one of them gentlemen's clubs downtown. That's the over-sexualization part coming out. Sorry.
That's a different episode.
That's all.
So,
happy
after
healthy marriage.
After we went through the whole court process, we moved. We did the expungement, but between moving and the expungement, I got fired from my work. It was 2 weeks after I filed the civil suit on the family members, and I haven't talked to a majority of my family since then. I saw a few of them. I saw them all at my uncle's funeral in September. Was the first time I've seen them.
Back up, because they don't know.
They don't know what?
That you worked.
Company.
Yeah.
Oh, so I was. I worked for a family business. Sorry. Yeah, they just fired me, right? Well, fired you from where? Saks Fifth Avenue? No. No. It was a custom manufacturing business that my grandfather started back in 1980 after he separated from the company he had a falling out with. And so history repeated itself in a way. My two uncles convinced my father to come over on a Saturday and let me go. I was their shop foreman, handled a lot of the daily operations.
Is your dad still there?
Yeah, oh yeah. My dad, he is fully vested in the company. I tried for years to get him to go away. Tried to beg him multiple occasions, and his brothers and his obligation to the company meant more than the things I was trying to tell him.
But they did it because you did the civil suit.
There's no evidence of that, but it's pretty timely, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was not a fun time. That triggered me really bad. You talk about triggers.
Right.
I have two main triggers. One is my family. They seem to always make the wrong decision, always, and it fucking hurts because I want nothing more than to love my family and have them in my life, but they can't make a right decision to save the life from their life. And every time I think that they're making progress, they take 5 steps back with a terrible decision. And I'm sick and tired of being hurt by them. I was hurt my whole life by the things that they said and did, even though they didn't know. But It still hurt.
They had a chance.
And now they know.
They had a chance to do better, and they didn't.
Yeah, and what did they do? They fired their son. So that's fucked up.
That's
because
also really...
I was the only one out of my cousins that was even involved in the business. So the business is going to die soon, and it is what it is. They made their bed; they're going to sleep in it. I'm way more successful at the company I'm at now, and
okay,
we'll
but
see where
also
it goes
think
from
about
there.
this. Like, we closed Blonde Ambition in January, Christy. That happened in April. Like, maybe it's saving you from something down the road of being involved in that later as well.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be a dumpster fire,
right?
For sure.
Yeah, you're.
Yeah, I mean, we take most of their customers anyway, so.
Okay.
So I'm not worried about it. My other trigger is being taken advantage of. When I feel like I'm being taken advantage of or somebody took advantage of me, it does give me that little tinge of rage I used to have because I was taken advantage of at a young age, and I have a control issue. I do like to control situations. I like, as you can see, I'm kind of controlling this podcast.
I told you you could, didn't I?
I know.
Thank
you for giving me permission because I was going to do it anyway.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I overtalk Lynn though. I feel like I'm a... But,
you do. But that's okay because
that's our
Lynn's a lot more timid
listener.
talking
right,
than you
right.
are.
Yeah.
You're way more comfortable with it.
Right.
Lynn's like,
right.
Should I talk now?
Right.
Yeah.
So I was trying not to...
No, it's good. You can talk over me all you want.
Obviously, I'm not over-talking this guy.
No, right? No,
I don't have a drop of Italian in me. I'm not going to be able to talk to any of you.
That's all right. But what other things? Did you have any other questions? Oh, yeah. So
something you wanted to talk about?
One of the things was when we mentioned how difficult the time we had after we found out about our son, and there was really no support. This is so Jessica and I teamed up with a therapist almost 4 years ago now. It's been on almost a 1-year hiatus with the whole group aspect, with the whole COVID thing going on. But we created a group called Kindred Solace, which means family support. And it's geared towards helping parents of victims. Because as a parent, and you know what's funny? You'd think my parents might want to go to this, right? No. So...
I'm gonna take a picture of that and I'll include it on our page.
So, excellent. Great. Yeah. And what it is the therapist that works with us, her name is Carissa, and she has her email on here. She vets people to come into the group if they are a good fit for the group, that kind of thing. We'd really like to get back into the group aspect. I enjoy the group. It sounds weird. It's not that I enjoy hearing people's pain. That's not it at all. I enjoy helping people with what they bring to the table. They come in with all these sorts of feelings and thoughts and what do I do, this and that. And I'm pretty blunt when I talk to them. I get shushed a lot and kind of told to, hey, take a breath. But it's a really good.
But you have a unique perspective where you were a survivor.
I was not only. I'm not only a victim. I'm a client. Yeah. No. Yeah. I have both sides, the parent and the victim. So it is a unfortunate, unique perspective. So, and it's something that we're proud of, and so the story that's in this pamphlet is actually our story. So that's definitely one thing.
I'm going to include it in the show notes.
Yep, and you can put the email on there if you want. It's not in Warren anymore, though. I think our office is in St. Clair Shores now. It's an old pamphlet. And there's a website. It's let's see.
I can put that in the description too.
It's kindredsolace.com. So, sorry, I didn't get that out. So, quick questions for you. I know you guys talked about like therapies, like EMDR, is that what it's called? And then like Reiki and all that stuff. Have you guys ever floated?
I want to.
Okay.
I have not.
So, all right, because you guys are into the whole energy thing, and I don't know anything about Reiki or EMDR, but from what you were talking about in Reiki...
Are you talking about like deprivation?
Well, you can do deprivation.
Right,
with it.
okay.
Yeah, so like sensory deprivation, complete darkness, no light, no sound, and you're floating in like complete stillness for like an hour.
I do have a touch of claustrophobia, so I'm not sure.
Well, you can leave a light on.
That would make me feel like
It's not over your head either. It's
Oh.
wide
It's not
open.
like you're in
So-
like
Oh, there's not a dome? Okay.
A friend
then
of
I'd be
mine.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm
that
not
I-
in a pod singing.
No, a friend of mine that I
like
was
you're
fighting
tanning
with,
in water.
him and his brother opened up the Float Institute. It's on 19 Mile, just Shaner. And
there's one out there. I only thought there was one in Detroit. Okay.
yeah, there's
Nice.
and it's great because he's got a really tranquil atmosphere, and it is. I love it.
We'll be trying it and updating
Definitely
you
try it.
guys.
Give it a shot. It is pretty amazing. If you do have those techniques from like your Reiki and things like that you guys talked
Right.
about that you could self do, I mean that'd be a pretty cool place
Right.
to do it.
Have you heard us talking about detox bathing?
No, is that like the ion foot bath we did?
Nope.
No.
It's totally different.
No, I don't know. I don't know anything about detox bathing.
No. Well, no, like you could take a bath and like.
Is that like taking a bath and have a hangover?
Well, it's
Well,
it's
it would
supposed
help
to.
it.
It's supposed to
It
be
really
geared
would.
towards like heavy metals and like
Okay.
detoxing like your whole lymphatic system and
Really?
yeah.
No
So
idea.
I imagine you would want to keep your health going and
Yeah. Since I almost died recently.
yeah, that's something
probably-
else we should say is I wanted to say that I'm just happy that I was so. Ask Lynn.
out.
I was so freaked out. I was like, I can feel Jessica.
Yeah.
I can feel Jessica.
I
Mike
was
had
actually pretty
COVID.
chill.
Mike had COVID, and he was pretty
Yeah,
touch
it
each
turned
other
into
for a minute.
some terrible pneumonia, and I was in the hospital in and out for 8 days.
Serious
It
shit.
was,
Very scary.
Yeah, it was not fun. It was lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks because you're alone.
Yeah. The
Period.
nurses don't even walk
Nope,
in to like
nope.
check you.
And I just came here from physical therapy because I'm still getting my strength back.
Yeah.
When after however many days I couldn't even walk.
Yeah.
It was bad. So
Well,
and I've been off oxygen for 36 hours now and counting. So and I've been out of the hospital for over a month. It took that long.
Yeah. Yeah.
It still makes me nervous that you haven't had any oxygen.
I have it in my truck.
I know. It's just the mother in me.
It's okay. You can give me a pulse oximeter if you want.
That ain't a mother. That's a worry word.
Yeah, Lynn.
Shut up.
So I don't know. Do you have any questions? Because I'm happy to answer any of them.
As far as like your therapy, you said that it was just like talking, more like verbal, her giving you techniques. Is there any techniques that you use on a regular basis?
Oh, jeez. Honestly, it's been so long since I've been to therapy. I think I've just adopted.
That they've just folded into your personality
Yeah.
a
Like,
bit?
I read a lot. Like, I don't know if that was a result of going to therapy, but I'd say over the last 6 years, I've read 10 times as many books as I've read in my whole
Do
life.
you think that that's a form of meditation for you?
I love reading.
Like,
A great read, and it gives good perspective. If somebody doesn't like going to a therapist, I would recommend The Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's a great book. I think it's good for people who do worry too much, maybe, and learn to not worry about what other people think of you, right? I mean, seriously, what holds you back from doing anything in the world other than, obviously fears, but what is your fear? Is it your fear of what people are going to think, what people are going to say, in this age of social media, there's so many fears like that people have that, people lose sight of, they lose their life. They don't get an opportunity to live their life because they're so worried about what other people are going to say or do. I don't give a fuck what anybody says or thinks about this podcast. They can go, I'm not going to say it. But
right, but
I'm not going to say it. We'll keep this R, not NC-17.
I just, I totally agree that you can just totally work it into your natural thing. And I went to the therapist and was telling her I wanted to like start life coaching and I wanted to start a podcast. And I was like, and she's like, do something.
Yeah, because you need to
She's like,
direct your energy
just do
towards
something. And I was
right?
like, oh, I started a website. And she's like, okay, roll with that. Keep continuing. You know,
Right.
like sometimes I feel really scattered.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it really pays to have somebody be like, hey, just do something.
Well, I'll be honest. I have a lot of random ideas. Jessica will tell you, it's almost like beautiful minds. Are like, I'm all like, we'll do this, we'll do that. And I'm making lists. And she's like, whoa, just paint the bathroom.
Do not
How'd
cut
that
into
work
that
out?
drywall.
Right? Hey, would you paint the bathroom? She comes back 30 minutes later. the drywall's completely off the wall and I'm running electrical. So it's
Right.
like...
Oh, that's a nice perspective of painting.
So you're painting the drywall. No, but it's... I do have a lot of... She grounds me, and she gives me direction sometimes. Because
Right.
I am all over the place.
Yeah, you
like
need
that.
somebody to point you north sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I try and do a million things, and if you just focus my energy on one thing, you get a lot done. So, yeah.
I feel like if we all focus our energy on what we're doing now,
Mm-hmm.
like your website and your group, and like we can change at least our own community. We can positively affect at least one or two people around us every time we put something out. And I feel like that makes humanity better.
Absolutely.
And I'm really excited that, like, I'm shocked that we had a positive response. Okay, like, I thought nobody would want to listen to us, and that, like, I didn't think somebody would volunteer to be on.
Hey, you know what? If it's an opportunity to help one person, that's all that matters to me.
And we helped one person, like, right away off the first episode.
Great, that's awesome.
And we got really excited. Shout out Laura. So, like, that's what I feel like. If there's one person, and then, like, one person, and then somebody changes because of this, and then they share that with somebody else, even if they don't listen to it, like, just they care for somebody else.
Nobody's perfect either.
No.
You know, people
That's why we created our group, because we wanted to be that one support person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you can talk, but we didn't even tell my family.
No.
Right.
We went into this all alone because we're like,
we didn't want anything to disrupt our...
We have a Sicilian, crazy family.
Yeah.
They're super...
Crazy.
Defending, you know. They love you
There would
fiercely.
have been an uproar.
Yes.
For sure.
There would have been signs, and it would have been a circus.
A picket, and yeah.
we really
Somebody would have damaged, you know, egged the house or
And
whatever,
that's not-
you know, and it's like we don't want to do
We don't
that.
want to be those people.
Right.
Maybe not at all.
You chose to be functioning, and you chose to...
What is it exciting for your child?
Right.
Well,
you chose to try and find a better way.
You try and not ever having to dealt with the system in our life in that aspect. We felt we were doing the right thing. In retrospect, should have just handled things that night. Can we edit that out?
Listen. No, we're not going to edit that out because I'm going to talk about... Did we talk about this before?
We did not. I know what you're going to say.
My cousin, who lived across the street from my sister, who I went and knocked on his door when I could not find my sister, lived with a lot of regret over not breaking into that house.
You mentioned that in your first
He
podcast.
was drunk for 365 days,
You didn't
self-destructing, liquor bottles falling out of his car, busted tires from jumping curbs. We held a family meeting. I'm not trying to air out all his drama, but he had a wife and a girlfriend. And then me and my brother's wife, the four of us sat down to like, what are we going to do about this? His wife and his girlfriend are there on behalf of his children. Like, he's that much falling apart because he regrets not going in there and killing that motherfucker. And I have repeatedly told him, A, I was obviously not an accomplice pregnant. Tessa wouldn't have survived all of that trauma.
Right.
B, our kids would not have turned out normal. The kids that were existing on the planet, not just the one in my womb. He had 2 children. Like, he now is healing and married to his second wife and good with his ex-wife and has more children and has really taken strides in therapy. And I'm trying to convince him to do EMDR. I know he's listening. So, but he's trying to find a better way.
Regret is strong.
Right.
It's very strong.
But it wasn't, not only was it not a good option, handling things ourselves is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But it wasn't feasible in my mind.
Right.
Well, like, if I had not been pregnant, me and him would have went in there. We would have not even called the cops. We would have broken a window and entered. For sure. So, like, Tessa was an oops, and, like, she saved a lot of people's lives.
Well, you think about it, it's not really an oops in that
Right.
sense.
No, but, like, we weren't planning on more children, but, like, it kind of just happened, and then, like, the ricochet of what she did for everybody by keeping me sane and like not letting these other little things happen.
Yeah, see, and Jessica and I talk about this a lot. You know, we both believe in some way, shape, or form everything happens for a reason, but I believe it's still up to that person to make things happen.
Right.
So you might be given an opportunity, but it's still your choice. You still have free will.
Right.
You know, I grew up in a very religious atmosphere, went to church every Sunday, went to a Lutheran school, went to church on Wednesdays, had to go through communion in Catholic and Lutheran schools. I mean, it was like, it was just a lot of church. And just from being around it so much and really filtering it out, for me, I don't believe in organized religion. I believe that there's good and bad in this world. And I also believe that, you know, you have a choice every day when you wake up. So what do you want to do? You want to be good? You want to be bad? Right. You know, be a good person.
Right.
That's what it's all about. You know, is there a creator? I don't know. I've never met him, but I think so. You know, I don't know. I just don't believe in organized religion.
I had the pleasant upbringing of not having religion pushed on me. My grandma was always kind of searching. My grandma got kicked out of the Catholic Church for filing for divorce from a man who was cheating on her. Oh. Or left her and her 3 children, whatever he was doing.
Rational, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was very rational, so she got kicked out. So she was always kind of wondering, and I would go to church with her and stuff, and I thought... And then I went to Down South Church. I've been to a lot of kind of churches. So I feel like that's all kind of a man construct, man-made and formed to control people, but that's a whole other conspiracy tinfoil hat kind of day. But I believe in good energy spreading. I believe in like it being contagious and positivity being contagious just the same way negativity is. And I feel like if, I'm going to say this out loud, if men don't realize that it's okay to talk about your traumas, whether it's sexual abuse, whether your brother was murdered, no matter what was going on, it doesn't make you less manly. It doesn't change who you are as a man. You can be alpha as shit and have severe trauma. I mean, please start talking about it. And let's all heal together. Let's all encourage each other to heal from things that is nobody's fault. Nobody picks their cross that they fucking carry around. No. It's not like, you're like, if I thought about what I was going to go through before that, I would have never thought I'd make it. Right. No. Like, we'd all be like, Courtney's going to be a crackhead. That's just going to be a thing.
You can never see the road ahead. Right. But looking back, you're like, holy fuck.
She will probably smoke meth and live by a dumpster fire. Exactly. Like, to stay warm. So, if everybody encourages everybody else.
It's like Jessica always tells me, she goes, man, if you didn't go to therapy and do everything you did, because with Antonio, it had already happened. We just didn't know. We didn't know.
And if you hadn't been healed by the time you or healing,
or at least been on that path,
right,
of where I was,
you'd be in jail.
Yeah, definitely. And
you'd be ruined, and your kids would be a disaster.
Exactly. Yeah. So, hey, everything happens for a reason.
Right.
Right.
You're not on that path, so you don't have to really.
Nope.
Go down.
And when you think about it in the perspective of that you went through what you went through to provide a better future for your own child, you're like, all right, I'd rather take the brunt of it than him.
I'll do it.
Right. He's not walking. He's not walking around sad, like, where do I turn, or nobody believe me, or.
Kind of action.
Right. Don't go around telling certain. But we are all very playful, so it's very hard for us to be very serious.
I said, you're not going to offend. There's nothing in this world that can offend me.
But the fact that the 4 of us have been this serious the whole time with minimal laughing is impressive.
I thought for sure I would just start laughing when I saw Jessica, because we do laugh in inappropriate times.
Right.
I hate my laugh, and if I have to hear it on a podcast, I'm just going to just...
But
if I start telling stories about when you had that laugh big, I mean, you might overpower this microphone.
Please don't.
Maybe later.
Maybe later.
But I feel like part of the reason that this is so successful is because Lynn and Jessica have a very close bond, and you knew this was a safe space as well. Before,
actually, I knew Lynn before I knew Jessica.
Did you?
Yeah, we went to high school together. So.
Oh, and you didn't?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
She was a trainer.
Oh, I knew that.
I was a football player.
Wasn't that how you two met?
No, we met. Well, long story. We're not going to get into that.
Again.
Stay focused.
I got the cut sign on that one. No, but I don't know if there's anything else on my list I didn't touch on.
Can I have that?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Keep
Yeah,
this.
absolutely. I think I have more of them at home. You could probably keep that one.
So I do want to say that Mike is on the podcast page. So he will see all your comments. And if anybody needs any help with anything that we talked about today, I'm sure Mike's more than willing to have you reach out. If you know anybody that this video would be good for, somebody that maybe needs some encouragement, whether it be a parent or a survivor themselves, please share this video. Like I said, I'm going to put his information in the show notes where you can find more information about their group. Lynn, do you have any more questions?
No, actually, he answered them as he told the story.
I'm sorry.
No,
that's
a good.
good.
Your thunder.
That's
No,
the sign of a good interview.
I don't like to. I'm good.
And
Hey, we did good time.
yeah, we did good time. So, all right, thanks for watching today and listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.